Hi everyone. So let's do a quick recap. In the last few videos, I introduced a simple claim that integrative thinking produces emotional intelligence. Then I presented my full framework and explained the mechanism behind it. Now, the central idea behind my framework is that your feelings are shaped by how you interpret a situation. Rather than responding from the very first interpretation that comes to the mind, integrative thinking broadens our understanding before we respond. That broader, more integrated understanding ultimately leads to a stable emotional state. And that stable emotional state is where emotional intelligence begins to emerge. And finally, emotional intelligence ultimately expresses itself through intelligent behavior, which simply means how you think shapes how you feel, and how you feel ultimately shapes how you act. But a framework is only meaningful if we can observe and apply it in the real world. If integrative thinking truly produces emotional intelligence, then we should be able to observe the same thinking process in the minds of people we already consider as emotionally intelligent. And that's why perhaps there is no better example than Krishna. Across the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is consistently described as someone who's calm under pressure, emotionally stable, remarkably persuasive, strategic, and capable of making wise decisions, even in the most complex situations. Most people see these as Krishna's behavioral qualities, but I became interested in a different question. What actually produced this emotional stability? Was Krishna emotionally intelligent first? Or was his emotional intelligence a result of the way he thought? If we carefully read Bhagavad Gita, a remarkably consistent pattern begins to emerge. Krishna doesn't begin by changing someone's emotions. He first changes the way they interpret reality. And once their interpretation changes, their emotions naturally begin to change with it. And that's the whole point of my framework and this video. This video is the proof chapter of the mechanism I've proposed. Krishna offers one of the clearest opportunities to examine this framework in action. So without further ado, let's see whether Krishna's thinking follows the same cognitive pattern that my framework defines as integrative thinking, using my signature 3P lens. Let's begin. Let's start with one of the most emotionally charged moments in the entire Mahabharata, the battlefield of Kurukshetra. As both armies stand ready for war, Arjun asks Krishna to place the chariot between them so he can see those with whom he must fight. What he sees completely overwhelms him. He sees his teachers, his grandfather, his relatives, his friends. And suddenly, the battle is no longer about victory. It becomes deeply personal. The Bhagavad Gita describes Arjun saying this: "My limbs fail, my mouth is dry, my body trembles, my hair stands on end, my bow slips from my hand, and my mind is reeling." This is emotional collapse. And this moment is incredibly important for my framework. Because notice what Krishna doesn't do. He doesn't tell Arjun, calm down. He doesn't say, control your emotions. He doesn't even begin with discussing courage. Instead, he starts at a completely different point. He starts with Arjun's interpretation. The very first thing that Krishna challenges is not Arjun's emotional state. It's the way Arjun is understanding the entire situation. Krishna says, "You grieve for those who should not be grieved for. Yet, you speak words of wisdom." Now, this is an extraordinary beginning. Krishna doesn't begin by telling Arjun to suppress his emotions. He begins by challenging Arjun's understanding of the situation. In other words, before Krishna addresses his emotions, he addresses his interpretation. And then something even more fascinating happens. Instead of giving Arjun a new perspective, Krishna systematically broadens Arjun's understanding through multiple perspectives. First, he broadens Arjun's understanding of life and death. Krishna says, just as the embodied soul passes through childhood, youth, and old age, so too it passes into another body. Arjun was seeing only the physical death. Krishna asks him to consider a larger reality. And then he expands his understanding even further. The unreal has no existence. The real never ceases to exist. Now, the discussion has moved beyond the battlefield itself. Krishna is expanding Arjun's understanding of reality. Then, Krishna shifts again, and this time to duty. Krishna says, considering your own dharma, you should not waver. Now, Arjun is no longer looking only at family relationships. He's being asked to consider responsibility. Then, Krishna shifts once more, and this time toward action itself. Krishna says to Arjun, you have a right to action alone, never to its fruits. Notice what has happened. Krishna didn't replace one interpretation with another. He has expanded Arjun's understanding by introducing multiple realities simultaneously. The body, the soul, duty, reality, action, consequence, and attachment. Each new perspective doesn't cancel the previous one. It broadens it. And this is exactly what my framework defines as integrative thinking. It's the ability to hold multiple interpretations of the same situation, expand them into their full range of possibilities, and bring those possibilities together into one unified understanding before you respond. Krishna is not asking Arjun to ignore his emotions. He's helping him build a broader interpretation from which a different emotional response can naturally emerge. And eventually, that is exactly what happens. At the end of Bhagavad Gita, Arjun says, my delusion is destroyed, and through your grace, I've regained memory. I stand firm, free from doubt. I will act according to your word. Look carefully at the sequence. First, clarity returns, then action follows. Not the other way around. From the perspective of my framework, this is exactly the mechanism I've been proposing all along. But a lot of people can argue there is just one conversation. So let's step outside of Bhagavad Gita. Before the war even begins, Krishna makes one final attempt to prevent it. He travels to Hastinapur as a peace messenger. Now think about the complexity of the situation. Krishna knows that the Pandavas have been wronged. He knows Duryodhan has repeatedly refused compromise. He knows the political consequences, he knows the moral consequences. And he knows that the war is becoming increasingly inevitable. Yet, despite all of this, he still attempts peace. Why? Because Krishna doesn't collapse reality into a single perspective. He believes that justice matters, but so does peace. He knows dharma matters, but so do human lives. He knows that political reality matters, but so do moral consequences. Rather than choosing one truth over another, Krishna integrates all of them before acting. Only after genuine attempts at peace had failed does war become unavoidable. Again, the same cognitive pattern appears. Multiple realities, integrated judgment, and then action, not reaction. Now, one final piece of evidence comes from the very end of the Bhagavad Gita. After 18 chapters of guidance, Krishna says something remarkable. Thus, I've explained this wisdom to you fully. Reflect upon it completely and then act as you think best. This verse is extraordinary. After explaining everything, Krishna doesn't command Arjun. He doesn't pressure him emotionally. He doesn't demand obedience. He leaves the decision to him. Why? Because throughout the dialogue, Krishna focuses on bringing Arjun back to clarity instead of simply telling him to calm his emotions. Once Arjun's interpretation had integrated, Krishna leaves the final decision to him, trusting him to reflect before acting. And moments later, Arjun confirms exactly that. His confusion has disappeared, his clarity has returned, and only then does he choose to act. Once again, the same mechanism reveals itself. Across these examples, the same cognitive pattern appears again and again. Krishna's emotional intelligence was not independent of the way he thought. It emerged from it. In other words, Krishna's mind was integrated. And that makes Krishna one of the strongest demonstrations of my proposition that integrative thinking produces emotional intelligence. If Krishna's integrated way of thinking produced his emotional intelligence, then it also explains why his decisions were so consistently effective. Because Krishna never reacted from a single perspective. He saw the consequences that others could not. While others remained trapped in the emotion of the moment, Krishna made decisions from a broader understanding of reality. Now, that did not just make him emotionally stable, it made him strategically effective. And it's one of the greatest practical benefits of integrative thinking. It doesn't just help us regulate our emotions, it improves the quality of our judgment. Because emotional intelligence is often misunderstood as kindness, patience, or empathy. Those qualities certainly matter. But Krishna demonstrates something deeper. His emotional intelligence was not just emotional regulation. It was regulated emotion emerging from integrated interpretation of reality. And when interpretation becomes more integrated, decision making naturally becomes intelligent. But Krishna's integrative thinking was not just about making better decisions. It served a much higher purpose. Throughout the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna never asks Arjun to suppress his emotions. Instead, he continuously brings him back to clarity, so that his actions arise from understanding rather than confusion. Because when interpretation becomes integrated, emotion stops being a distraction and your mind becomes clear. And only a clear mind can act in alignment with dharma. This is perhaps one of the deepest insights the Bhagavad Gita offers. Purpose is not discovered by ignoring emotion. It emerges when clarity replaces confusion. This is why Krishna's emotional intelligence served a much larger purpose. It became a means of restoring clarity in the moments of moral and psychological collapse. And in that sense, it served a much larger purpose than just personal emotional stability or strategic advantage. It served dharma. So when we bring these three lenses together, the pattern becomes remarkably clear. From the practical lens, we observed that Krishna consistently expanded interpretation before emotional stability emerged. From the profitable lens, we saw that this integrated way of thinking produced wiser judgment and more intelligent decisions. And from the purposeful lens, we saw that those decisions ultimately served dharma, or larger purpose, rather than just individual emotional stability. Across these examples, the same cognitive pattern appears again and again. Krishna's emotional intelligence was not independent of the way he thought. It emerged from it. In other words, Krishna's mind was integrated, and that makes Krishna one of the strongest proofs of my proposition that integrative thinking produces emotional intelligence. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep building a better you.